Hi, I'm Erica Bennett. I'm on the faculty here at McPhail, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the audition etude for All-State this year. So if you've made the decision to try out for All-State, congratulations! That is a brave and awesome choice. What a great way to improve your playing as you work towards this fun goal. The most important thing that you can do as soon as you've made the decision to do the audition is to start practicing right away. A music audition is not like taking a final exam where you can cram in a bunch of facts and figures in the day before. Our muscles, our bodies, our motor memory need time to incorporate what we're presenting to them. And so the sooner you can get started, the better your audition will be. Your judges will be listening to and ranking your audition based on 6 categories. And these categories are tone, quality, intonation and pitch accuracy, rhythm and tempo, articulation, technique, and interpretation and musicianship. So let's break down each of these 6 categories a little bit. They're each given equal importance, so it's important to think about each of them. The first one is tone, and this is not a surprise. Your tone is your voice on your instrument. It's kind of what brings the first impression to your playing. We want to make sure that it's clear, that it's focused, that it's consistent, and that it sounds beautiful on long notes as well as the short 16th notes. Support with air through every note you play. You might not be used to thinking about tone, so you might want to begin a practice session with 5 minutes of tone warm-ups. And this can be long tones, it can be scales, slow scales, or octaves, anything where you're really listening and trying to make your best sound. The second thing is intonation and pitch accuracy. Pitch accuracy is of the utmost importance, and that begins with knowing your key signature. In these 2 excerpts, we have F sharps and no flats. We might not be used to playing sharps and no flats in band music, so this could take some getting used to. If you need to mark in every single F sharp and be natural, go ahead and do it. Professionals mark up their music all the time. It's not a sign of weakness at all. Notice when you have accidentals at the beginning of the measure that run through the measure. Like in measure 6, there's a D sharp at the beginning of that measure. Go ahead and right away, just write in a sharp next to your next D, so that one's sharp as well. And thinking about intonation as we're working on the piece, we need to know the flute's tendencies. The flute has a tendency to be flat when we go in the lower range and when we get quiet. So the very end of the first excerpt, at the very last note of measure 8, the low E, can tend to really sink down if we don't do anything to counteract it. Can kind of sink down. So to counteract that, we want to stick out our bottom lip a little bit more to blow across the flute. Maybe lift your nose, turn your flute away a little bit. So we keep that pitch up. On the flute, the high and loud notes are going to tend to be sharp. So we've got a lot of high and loud notes in the second excerpt, particularly in measure 37. So take this measure slowly with the tuner or a tuning app and play each note trying to be as relaxed as you can in your lips and inside your mouth. Drop your jaw, create some space, and try and keep them flexible. It can be hard, but it can make a big difference. That's pretty tight. And that is more loose and so more in tune. The third category to keep in mind is rhythm and tempo. Playing the right rhythms is just as important as playing the right notes. If you don't know a rhythm, please don't guess. Ask someone, ask a friend, ask your band director, ask your private lesson teacher to help you with the rhythm. It's really important. With consistent tempo, you can use a metronome. And I recommend recording yourself as you're playing with the metronome so that you can make sure you're not cheating it here and there. Start slowly on the fast etude and then work your way up. You don't get any prizes for doing the exact right tempo, but making a lot of errors. It's much more important to start slow. Look for parts and practice parts with the metronome that have transitions between measures, transitions of different rhythms between two measures. Like in measure 4 and measure 5. We have long rhythms in measure 4 and 16ths in 5. Practice using the metronome for just these two measures and make sure that you're not taking too much time or speeding up in any of those spots. The triplets in the second excerpt really need to sound different than the 8th notes and the 16th notes too. So again, metronome app is your friend when you're working on these. Next is articulation. We have a lot of different markings of articulation in these excerpts. We have staccatos, we have tenutos, accents, and slurs, and all of them need to be paid close attention to. In measure 9, 10, 11, and 12, we have all of these different articulations. We have accent at the beginning of 9. Bring that out by emphasizing that first G. Make sure that your first slur goes all the way to the next G. And then staccato. Nice and short and light. And finally, tenuto at the end of measure 10. The tenuto should sound different than the staccato. These details all really matter, so don't cheat yourself out of a few points. Get all those slurs. Next is technique. So we know that technique involves pitch accuracy. So again, work on that key signature. And it also involves playing with very even fingers. So evenness, when we're playing a lot of fast 16th notes, like in measures 17 and 18, and 19 and 20, just making sure that those are all even and equal in length and not too crammed or rushing in spots. Another technique spot to look at is the grace notes. We have several grace notes in the second excerpt, and in the very last two measures. We want those grace notes to be really tight right before the beat, and not too early. So practice those with the metronome too. Lastly, we have interpretation and musicianship. And this is where we can really make the music come to life. Exaggerate every single dynamic marking and make them very, very obvious. Record yourself playing and ask yourself, was that really a piano? Or have someone, even better, have someone listen to you and see if they can tell your volume changes. There should be a huge difference between 16 and 17. Should be a big surprise when we get louder after measure 16. So show that. Also, stylistically, these are very different. How can you bring out the styles? The first excerpt is in a minor key, and it's marked molto cantabile, which means very singing. So we want it to be very, very connected, not hurried, beautiful, beautiful, rich sound. The second excerpt is in a major key, and it is allegro, it's staccato, it's bouncy, it's fun, it's happier sounding. So how can you show those contrasts? The last point about this category is the breathing. So mark in all of your breaths. Try to breathe with the phrases wherever possible. And if you can't breathe, if you need a breath before a phrase is over, look for good spots to breathe, like ties, after dotted notes, after longer notes. Mark in the breaths and don't leave those up to chance. Well, congratulations. If you've done all of these things and you've started practicing ahead of time, you're in really great shape for your audition. Auditions can be very stressful. So remember to be kind to yourself and gentle to yourself as you're practicing while you do the audition and then later when you wait to hear your results. If you've put in the hard work and made yourself a better player, you're already successful. So good luck and go get started.